He dumped me a week before our wedding, said I was too basic to be a wife, and posted a video of him proposing to my cousin. Everyone laughed at me. Until I walked onto the wedding stage that day in a designer gown, not as a guest, but as the new CEO of his father's company. He was just fired, and I was the one who signed the papers. My name is Natalie Brooks. I'm 27 years old, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, and for most of my life, I thought I had it all figured out. I had a great job as a marketing manager, a fiancé I thought adored me, and a wedding planned down to the last flower petal. But life has a funny way of flipping the script on you, especially when you least expect it. I met Tyler Monroe in college. He was charming, athletic, had a killer smile, and came from one of the wealthiest families in the state. His father, Richard Monroe, owned one of the largest construction and real estate companies in the Southeast, Monroe Development Corp. Everyone on campus knew who the Monroes were. Tyler loved the spotlight, and I was the quiet, go-with-the-flow type. Somehow, we clicked. He called me his calm in the storm, and I fell hard. We dated for 4 years before he finally proposed. It wasn't some private, intimate moment. No, he did it in front of a crowd at a charity gala his family hosted. Lights, cameras, applause. I should have seen the red flags even then. He loved an audience. Me? I just loved him. The wedding was set for June 10th, my dream garden ceremony at a lakeside venue in North Carolina. I spent months planning everything down to the monogrammed napkins. My cousin, Camilla, was my maid of honor. We were close growing up. She'd always been the golden child, tall, stunning, fashion-forward, and a magnet for attention. Still, I trusted her. That was my first mistake. Exactly 7 days before the wedding, Tyler asked me to meet him at his loft. He looked irritated when I arrived, like I was interrupting something. I thought he was stressed, maybe cold feet. Instead, he sat me down and said the words I'll never forget. "Natalie, I can't marry you. You're just too basic to be a wife. I need someone who matches my lifestyle." At first, I thought it was a sick joke. I laughed. Then I saw his face, cold, smug, distant. And before I could even process the heartbreak, he followed it up with, "It's not personal. You're just not what I want anymore." I left his place in a daze, clutching my engagement ring like it meant something. I cried for hours. Days. No one from his family reached out. Not even a text. I shut off my phone, didn't eat, barely slept. My heart was in pieces. 3 days later, I finally opened Instagram again, and my world shattered all over again. There, at the top of my feed, was a video. Tyler, on one knee, holding out a sparkling diamond ring, to Camilla, my cousin. The caption read, "When you know, she was always the one." And just like that, every mutual friend I had, every coworker who followed us, every nosy neighbor with a screen, they all saw it. The betrayal, the replacement, and the comments? Brutal. Camilla's an upgrade for sure. She fits him better. Poor Natalie. Guess he leveled up. They weren't just laughing at me. They were tearing me apart like I was some failed character in a reality show. And Camilla? She blocked me, as if I was the villain. For a full week, I didn't leave my apartment. I didn't answer calls, ignored every knock at the door. The wedding day came, and I figured they'd be celebrating while I was buried under the covers in shame. But that morning, something inside me shifted. I looked in the mirror and didn't see a victim anymore. I saw a woman who'd been used, mocked, discarded, and I decided that if the world wanted a story, I'd give them one they'd never forget. That's when I pulled out a letter I'd received just weeks before the breakup, an offer from Monroe Development Corp. Tyler's father had seen my pitch deck at a corporate mixer and was impressed. He wanted to bring me in as a senior strategist. I had politely declined, thinking I'd be part of the Monroe family soon anyway. But now? I printed the contract, called Richard Monroe personally, and said I was reconsidering. He didn't even know Tyler had dumped me. "I always knew you had sharp instincts," he said. "Come in on Monday. We'll talk numbers." But what Richard didn't know was that I wasn't just coming in as an employee. I was coming for the throne. I walked into Monroe Development Corp. on Monday morning like I owned the place because, in a way, I was planning to. I wore my sharpest navy suit, hair slicked into a clean bun, heels clicking with every step like punctuation marks to my silent statement. I'm not broken. I'm back. Richard Monroe greeted me like a proud uncle. Natalie, I'm thrilled you changed your mind. We could use someone with your vision. He offered me a senior position on the strategic development team, just like he promised. What he didn't expect, though, was my counteroffer. I appreciate that, Richard, but I'm not interested in coming in halfway. I want executive leadership. I've been building brands since I was 23. I helped turn 2 startups into multi-million-dollar names, and I have the proof to show it. I slid my portfolio across his desk. Inside were results, proposals, campaign breakdowns, and a vision that aligned perfectly with the company's next-gen expansion goals. I saw his eyes widen as he flipped through the pages. "And what position are you asking for?" he finally asked. "Chief Strategy Officer, with a fast-track path to CEO." He paused. "That's bold." I leaned in. "Your son publicly humiliated me, but I'm still here. Not crying, not crawling, leading. And I guarantee I'll work 10 times harder than he ever did. Because I don't have the luxury of entitlement. I built myself from the ground up. You want growth? Give me the keys." He sat back in his chair, silent. Then he smiled. "Let's give you a 60-day trial. If you deliver what you say you can, the role is yours, and when I retire at the end of the year, you'll be the first in line." Done. Tyler had no idea. In fact, no one knew I was working there. I stayed low at first, slowly learning the ropes, studying the internal politics, understanding the weaknesses of the company. And the biggest one? Tyler himself. He had some vague role as project consultant, which meant he got paid a ridiculous salary to take long lunches, flirt with interns, and throw around his last name like it was a qualification. Everyone tiptoed around him, afraid of the boss's son. But I wasn't scared. I was patient. For weeks, I sat in meetings, took notes, rewrote strategy decks, and subtly dismantled everything Tyler had put his name on. I brought results. Clients started noticing. Even the board did. But the real twist came one Friday afternoon. Richard called a surprise meeting with the board and the executive team. Tyler waltzed in late, sunglasses on his collar, Camilla clinging to his arm like a designer bag. She gave me a smug look from across the table. I didn't react. Richard stood at the head of the table and cleared his throat. "I want to introduce our newest executive team member. Someone who single-handedly boosted our client retention by 28% this quarter. Someone who's restructured our investment pitch and secured 2 new luxury developments. Natalie Brooks." Tyler blinked like he didn't recognize me. Camilla's smile faltered. Richard continued. "And pending board approval, she'll be stepping in as interim CEO starting next quarter while I take a leave of absence." The silence was deafening. Tyler stood up. "You're joking, right? Natalie? CEO? She was my fiance. She's nothing." Richard turned to him, voice cool and cutting. "And you're not CEO, Tyler. You've contributed nothing but PR disasters and poor judgment. You were on probation. You just didn't know it." Then, Richard looked at me. "Natalie, the floor is yours." I stood, straightened my jacket, and faced the boardroom like I had been born to run it. My leadership style is results-driven, not ego-driven. I'm here to turn this company into a national name, not a family playground. If anyone has questions about my qualifications, my numbers are in the presentation. I suggest you look at the data, not the drama. Camilla looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. "Tyler?" His face turned a shade of red I didn't know humans could make. And in that moment, I realized I had only just begun. The weeks that followed were like something out of a corporate war movie. I moved quickly, decisively, and with a cold determination that surprised even me. As interim CEO, I didn't waste any time. The moment the board signed off, I took charge of everything. I restructured departments, renegotiated contracts, and introduced new, innovative marketing strategies that had been long overdue. Monroe Development Corp was on the verge of a renaissance, and I was at the helm. But while the company thrived, my personal life was crumbling again. Tyler had tried to reach out, at first with a simple text, then a call, then a full-blown attempt to talk. I ignored every single one. He wasn't sorry. He was just losing his grip on everything, and he wanted me to come back into his life to fix it. But the truth was, I had changed. I wasn't the girl who needed his approval anymore. I didn't need his wealth, his charm, or even his family's connections. I had my own, and I was going to use them. One night, a few weeks after I'd officially stepped into the CEO role, I was working late at the office when I got a message from Richard. It wasn't a usual update, it was a request for a private meeting. "We need to talk about Tyler," he wrote. When I arrived at his office the next morning, Richard looked visibly upset, a side of him I hadn't seen before. He motioned for me to sit across from him. "I need to be honest with you, Natalie. Tyler, he's not taking this well. He's been stirring trouble behind the scenes. I tried to keep it under wraps, but it's getting bad." I raised an eyebrow. "What exactly are we talking about?" "He's been telling people you manipulated your way into this role. That you seduced me to get the CEO position and ruined his chances because you're bitter about our breakup. He's spreading rumors to key clients, trying to get people to pull their business." A cold chill ran through me. Tyler was not only attacking my professional reputation, he was actively sabotaging the company I was running. But I wasn't about to let him destroy everything I'd built in a matter of weeks. No, he was about to learn just how far I was willing to go. "What are we going to do about it?" I asked, my voice steady. Richard looked at me like he'd never seen me so determined. "I'm going to put an end to this. And I want you to be ready, because when I'm gone, this company will be yours. Not just the role, but the entire operation. I'm leaving, Natalie. I'm going to step down and retire." I stared at him, stunned. Richard Monroe wasn't a man to back down from anything. But he was serious. "You're sure?" I asked. "I've been thinking about it for a while," he said. "You've earned it, and honestly, I trust you more than I trust Tyler. He's made too many mistakes. He doesn't understand what this company needs anymore." And just like that, the game changed. Tyler was out, but it wasn't just a family matter anymore, it was business. I was going to take everything. I spent the next few days in deep strategy mode. I worked with the board, mapped out a succession plan, and finalized all the legal paperwork for Richard's retirement. Then, the real moment came. Tyler had no idea what was about to hit him. As CEO, I had the power to make decisions that would affect everyone, especially him. His father's retirement package was in place, but the stipulation? Tyler no longer had a position in the company. And even if he tried to fight it, he didn't have a leg to stand on. He had never been more than a figurehead, a tool to secure the family's legacy. Now, that tool had been replaced. The day arrived, the day I had been waiting for. It was Tyler's wedding day, Camilla's wedding day. The wedding I was supposed to attend as just another guest, wearing a forced smile, pretending to be happy for them. But I wasn't just a guest. Not anymore. I slipped into a designer gown that had been delivered to my office earlier that week. It was sleek, sharp, with just enough elegance to send a message. I wasn't showing up as a broken woman, crying over a man who had rejected me. No, I was walking into that wedding as a queen ready to take her throne. When I walked into the grand ballroom, the guests froze. I could feel all eyes on me. Whispers followed, but I didn't care. I walked straight to the front, past the tables of guests, and up to the stage where Tyler and Camilla were standing, ready to exchange vows. Tyler's jaw dropped when he saw me. "Natalie," his voice cracked, filled with disbelief. "Yes, Tyler," I said, my voice cold, steady, and powerful. "I'm here. And I'm not just here to watch. I'm here to remind you that the tables have turned." The officiant, caught in the sudden shift of energy, glanced at me, confused. Tyler turned to him, visibly rattled. "Is there a problem?" the officiant asked, clearly unsure of what was happening. "There's a problem," I said, looking at the groom, the man who had once been everything to me. "Tyler, you're fired." The room went silent. Camilla's face paled and Tyler's expression was one of pure panic. He opened his mouth to protest, but I wasn't done. I'm the CEO now. I've just signed the papers. The company is mine. And you? You're nothing but an ex-fiance, a failed project consultant, and the son of a man who knows when to step aside. Tyler's face went from red to white as he stood frozen. He looked around, but there was no one to help him. No one to save him. Not even Camilla, who looked absolutely horrified. The silence in the ballroom was unbearable. It felt like the entire world had come to a halt. Tyler was rooted to the spot, blinking at me as though he couldn't comprehend what I had just said. I could see the gears turning in his head. He was trying to find a way out, to charm his way back into control. But there was nothing left for him to salvage. His world was crumbling in front of his eyes. What do you mean, fired? He managed to stammer, his voice rising with panic. I stepped closer, my heels clicking with a sharpness that echoed in the vast room. The guests were still frozen, unsure of what was happening. I could see some familiar faces, old friends, distant relatives, all looking between Tyler and me, unsure of who they should be rooting for. I mean, you're no longer the heir to Monroe Development Corp. You've been fired. Your father has officially retired, and I've taken over. You've had your chance, Tyler. You blew it. Tyler's face was twisted in a mix of anger and disbelief. He opened his mouth to argue, but I raised my hand to stop him. No, you're done, I said firmly. You humiliated me, took everything from me, and thought you could get away with it. Well, here's the truth. You never had the power you thought you did. You were never the one with the vision. I was always the one capable of running this company. I didn't need your last name to succeed. Camilla, who had been standing next to Tyler with a nervous smile, looked between us. I could see her realizing what was happening, her life, her plans, her future, all evaporating in an instant. I could almost hear the gears clicking in her mind too, realizing she was no longer the top priority in Tyler's world. Are you insane? She hissed, her voice low but full of venom. This is a wedding, not a board meeting. What is wrong with you? I glanced at her, unfazed. This wedding? It's a joke. A farce. Tyler doesn't deserve to be standing here, promising anything to anyone. And you? You're just the next person he's going to screw over when the mood strikes. Do you really want to spend your life with someone like that? Camilla's face flushed crimson, but she said nothing. Her eyes darted to Tyler, who was still trying to piece together his shattered reality. He looked at her, his voice trembling as he muttered, "This is a mistake. Natalie, we can talk about this. I didn't mean what I said." I smiled coldly, the taste of triumph lingering in my chest. Oh, you meant every word. You said I was too basic to be a wife. Well, I'm not your wife, and I'm not going to let you manipulate me into being anything less than what I am. I'm not basic, Tyler. I'm a force to be reckoned with. And now you get to watch me take everything you thought you were entitled to. He looked around the room again, his mind racing as the truth settled in. His father's retirement was official. The company that had been his birthright had slipped through his fingers. And now his ex-fiancée, the woman he had humiliated, was the one who held all the power. A murmur spread through the crowd. Some guests seemed to be enjoying the drama unfolding, while others appeared nervous, unsure of how to react. Tyler was on the verge of a meltdown, his face red with rage and embarrassment. None of this matters, Natalie, he spat, taking a step toward me, his fists clenched. You think you've won? You think you're better than me? You don't belong in this world. You're nothing without me. I stood my ground, not flinching. I've never been anything with you, Tyler. Everything I have, I built. And today, I'm taking everything from you. Not because I want revenge, but because you deserve nothing less. Tyler opened his mouth again, but before he could speak, Richard Monroe stepped forward. The once proud patriarch of the Monroe family, now a shadow of the man he once was, looked at his son with disappointment. I tried, Tyler, he said quietly. I tried to prepare you for this moment, but you've proven me wrong. You're not the future of this company. Natalie is. She's earned it. And you? You're just a lesson. Tyler's eyes darted to his father, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of something, guilt maybe? But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by a surge of anger. "This isn't over," Tyler growled. "You think you've won? You think I'm just going to let you take everything from me?" I met his gaze steadily. "You already lost. The moment you chose ego over integrity, you lost. And I'm not the one who's going to destroy you, Tyler. You did that all by yourself." The room was still tense, the weight of the confrontation sinking in. Tyler's pride was shattered. His dreams of success, of a life built on his father's wealth, were slipping through his fingers. And I was the one who had taken it all. I turned away from Tyler and Camilla, my heels clicking confidently as I walked toward the exit. The guests watched me, some with admiration, others in shock, but I didn't care. I wasn't walking out as the woman who had been dumped a week before her wedding. I was walking out as the CEO of Monroe Development Corp., a woman who had turned her pain into power. As I reached the door, I heard Tyler's voice one last time. "Don't think this is over, Natalie," he called after me, his voice full of venom. But I didn't turn around. I didn't need to, I had won. And nothing he could say or do would ever take that away from me. The days after the wedding were a whirlwind of media attention and corporate dealings. The phone calls, the interviews, the congratulatory messages, everything was coming at me in waves. But beneath all the surface-level congratulations, there was one thing I couldn't escape. The quiet, lingering knowledge that Tyler was still out there, nursing his wounds, plotting his next move. And I had no doubt he would try something to undermine me again. That's just who he was. But I wasn't going to wait around for his next move. I was done playing games. I was in control now. I didn't need to prove myself to anyone, least of all him. The company was mine, and that meant I had to make decisions that would solidify my place as CEO, not just for me, but for the future of Monroe Development Corp. Tyler wasn't going to take this lightly. But as I sat in my sleek corner office, overseeing the bustling operations of the company, I couldn't help but feel a small sense of satisfaction. I had built this from the ground up, even before taking the official reins. And now, I was going to make sure it thrived. I was determined to take this company to new heights, to transform it into something even Richard Monroe hadn't envisioned. A few days after the wedding, I received a call from Richard. His voice was heavy with regret, but there was an edge of finality in it. "Natalie, I want to thank you for everything you've done," he began, his tone sincere. "I know things have been complicated, and I can't undo the damage Tyler's caused. But you've proven yourself more than capable. I know I made the right choice in stepping aside." I smiled softly, knowing I'd made it clear to everyone involved just how serious I was about taking control. "Thank you, Richard. I won't let you down. I'll make sure the company continues to thrive." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "There's something else, though," Richard added, and I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "Tyler. He's been trying to contact me, and I think he's planning something. He's desperate, Natalie. Desperate to get back what he thinks is his." I let out a quiet breath, my fingers tapping on the desk. I've been expecting that. But I'm not worried about him. Tyler's used to getting his way, but he's forgotten something important. I'm not the woman he used to know. I'm not the one he can manipulate anymore. Richard's voice softened. "You've come a long way, Natalie. Just be careful. He's not going to give up easily." "I'm not worried," I said again, my voice resolute. "I've got everything under control. I won't let him or anyone else take this from me." Days turned into weeks, and Monroe Development Corp. began to flourish under my leadership. I didn't just want to maintain the company's legacy. I wanted to build something that would be remembered for years to come. New partnerships were formed, old deals were restructured, and the company's stock started to rise again. My vision was starting to take shape. But Tyler wasn't done. The following month, I received an email from a reporter who had been investigating the Monroe family for years. The subject line read, "Tyler Monroe's secret deal, is the family business about to be sold?" My heart skipped a beat as I opened the message. The reporter had uncovered a disturbing set of documents. Tyler had been negotiating with several major investors to sell off key assets of the company behind Richard's back, intending to strip the company of its resources and put it under new ownership. The audacity! The betrayal. Tyler was trying to sell the company I had just taken over, his father's legacy, to the highest bidder. He hadn't given up. He had simply changed tactics. I immediately called Richard. He was livid when I told him about Tyler's plan. I knew he was trouble, but this is beyond what I could have ever imagined. I let out a steady breath, thinking, "Don't worry, Richard. I'll take care of this. We'll put a stop to it." I wasn't going to let Tyler get away with this. Not after everything I'd sacrificed to get to this point. I quickly arranged a meeting with the board to discuss the situation, and we worked together to formulate a plan to thwart Tyler's scheme. If he wanted a fight, he was about to get one. The next day, I confronted Tyler at his office. He didn't expect me to show up. I could see the look of surprise on his face when I walked in, arms crossed and all business. "I know what you've been doing, Tyler," I said, cutting straight to the point. "I know about the deals you've been making. Trying to sell the company behind everyone's back. You don't get to destroy everything I've built. You don't get to take what's mine." Tyler stood up, his expression a mixture of frustration and defiance. "You think you can stop me? You're just a woman playing in a man's world. You'll never be able to take the reins like your father." I laughed, the sound low and dangerous. "You're wrong. I'm not trying to be like anyone. I'm building my own legacy. And I'm not going to let you ruin it. You're done, Tyler. I've already filed the legal papers to stop your deals from going through. And if you think you can still destroy this company, you're sadly mistaken." Tyler's face fell, the realization dawning on him that he had lost again. He had underestimated me, and now he was about to face the consequences. That evening, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the hem of my new designer gown. I had worked for everything I had, and now, as I looked at myself, I knew this was only the beginning. I wasn't the woman who had been dumped at the altar. I wasn't the girl who had been humiliated. I was the CEO of one of the most powerful companies in the country, and no one, least of all Tyler, was going to take that away from me. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I walked to the door and opened it to find Richard standing there, a proud smile on his face. "You've done it, Natalie," he said, his voice full of pride. "You've secured your place. The company is yours. You've earned it." I smiled back at him, knowing that no one could ever take this from me. "It's just the beginning, Richard. We're going to make Monroe Development Corp. A name people will never forget." As I stood there, looking at the future I had carved out for myself, I realized that Tyler's betrayal had been the catalyst for my transformation. Without him, I never would have pushed myself this hard. Without his rejection, I never would have become the woman I was today. And as I stepped into the future, I knew one thing for certain. I would never let anyone, especially him, define who I was ever again. Tyler had been right about one thing. I had proved him wrong. But more importantly, I had proven to myself that I could rise above it all. Sometimes the hardest moments in life, those that break us or humiliate us, are actually the ones that shape us into something stronger and better. It's in those moments of pain, betrayal, and rejection that we discover who we truly are. Never let anyone tell you who you can or can't be. You have the power to rewrite your story, to rise from the ashes and take control of your destiny. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more gripping, twist-filled tales, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. You won't want to miss the next chapter.